Like to call this meeting to order. Mercedes, would you like to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Is it Alex's turn? Okay, Alex, it's all yours. To the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice. Thank you. Liz, would you like to do the roll call?
Thank you, Vice Chair. This evening, Chair Chuan is out. And I'll start attendance with Commissioner Mosen.
Present.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
Present.
Commissioner Awasti.
Present.
Commissioner Galang.
Present.
Commissioner Albana.
Present.
And Vice Chair Ciardella.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the conflict of interest and campaign contributions declaration. Michael, we're going to understand you have an announcement.
Oh, we can do that during announcements.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I ask you, Vice Chair, and each of the commissioners, whether he or she has any financial or personal conflicts of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda.
Commissioner Mosen.
None.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
None.
Commissioner Awasti.
None.
Commissioner Galang.
None.
Commissioner Albana.
None.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
None.
Thank you.
Thank you. I further ask you, Vice Chair, and the commissioners of the Planning Commission to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any of the development project applicants for development projects on tonight's agenda.
Commissioner Mosen.
None.
Commissioner Medina Ashby.
None.
Commissioner Awasti.
None.
Commissioner Galang.
None.
Commissioner Albana.
None.
Vice Chair Ciardella.
None.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Let the record reflect there are no reported conflicts.
Thank you. Approval of the meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda for June 14th?
Move to approve.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And then approval of the minutes.
I make a
for-
motion to, oh, sorry.
What was that?
I made a motion to approve, but you didn't finish the date.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to remember what the date was last month.
It's on there.
It's on there?
Yes.
How about May 10th then?
10th, yes.
How about that? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 10th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair, abstain.
Okay, you were absent.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Interim planning director, do we have any announcements?
Good evening, commissioners. I do have a few announcements. Just want to remind everyone that the June 28th meeting is canceled and that we will also be taking a recess in July and returning in August. And lastly, just want to share that we are progressing on the Gateway Main Street specific plan, and our consultants are working on a draft, which will hopefully a public draft will be ready sometime in late summer to early fall. And we expect to come to this commission to provide an update on that fairly soon. That's all from the planning department.
Okay, thank you. And Michael, do you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Joining us today is Assistant City Attorney Christopher Creech, who I'd like to formally introduced to this commission and who will be staffing this commission when you come back from your break. So Christopher, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Chair. Pleasure to appear before you tonight. I started on May 8th, so I was a little bit too early to meet with you at your last meeting, but I appreciate you taking the time to see me. I started with the city of San Jose with my legal career, went from there into private practice where I've been most recently, and I'm happy to come back inside of the city and to work with all of you and everyone else at the city of Milpitas to achieve the goals of the public. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Any commissioners have any announcements? Okay, seeing none. Anybody want to address the planning commission for the public forum? Seeing none. We have a public hearing.
Wait, I have one announcement. Just the Juneteenth celebration that's put on by Sunny Hills Neighborhood Association at Augustine Park this Saturday, June 17th, 11 to 5 p.m.
And I also understand we have a state of the city address
Oh,
by
that's
the
right.
by the mayor.
June 22nd.
Yes. Now, I don't know what time.
I want to say
Yeah.
5, but yeah, I'm not 100% certain.
The State of the City address will start at 5:30 on June 22nd, and it will be here in council chambers.
Thank you. Okay, we have some public hearings here.
The first item is a conditional use permit to allow the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for on-site consumption within a new restaurant at 500 Barber Lane. We have Senior Planner Fasadi here to provide the presentation.
Thank you, Jay. And before I even start, this is my first in-person presentation, and just seeing all of you, it's really a pleasure and honor to be here. It felt really good walking this council chamber. So thank you for all you do, and I'm glad to be back in the chambers. We do have an application for a conditional use permit for on-sale consumption of alcoholic beverages at 500 Barber Lane. The specific request is by an applicant referred to as S&B Restaurant Incorporated. They've applied for a conditional use permit to serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits within their new restaurant at 500 Barber Lane called Shien Steam Pot and Yakuniku, which means grilled meat. I'd like to remind the Planning Commission that the proposed restaurant use is already permitted use. The conditional use permit that the applicant is proposing for is specifically to serve and sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits. Next slide, please. The restaurant is located in the Milpitas Square Shopping Center, located off of Barber Lane. The site has previously been vacant, other than being occupied by a Shien. But before that, it was occupied by Gen Korean Barbecue. Next slide, please. This is the zoning map demonstrating the zoning that's surrounding the site. The majority of the site surrounded by the C2 General Commercial Zoning District, with the exception of southern parcel 600 Barber, which you may be familiar with, is we have a mixed use development contemplated on that site. Next slide, please. I'd first like to state that alcohol licensing and land use regulations for retail alcohol outlets in California, it's somewhat complex. You hear about getting an ABC license. It's technically from the state. The state has departments, the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, but they work with the city and the local jurisdiction to monitor and control these new licenses. And that's why it's here today. Next slide, please. And if I can just give a really brief one-slide summary on how this works. Prior to 1994, ABC had complete discretion over liquor license issuance. They were able to issue liquor licenses for outlets and restaurants within the state. If a local jurisdiction or community member had an issue with a potential outlet, the protester had to prove that there was an undue concentration of liquor retailers in the particular district. Undue concentration is defined as a crime district with 20% more crime compared to all crime reporting districts in the city. In other words, if the city or a member of the public could prove that the location of the proposed alcohol selling business was in a crime district that had 20% more crime than any other crime reporting district, they had the potential to convince ABC to deny the application. This type of policing made it very difficult to control liquor retailers because proving undue concentration was very difficult. Therefore, in 1994, AB 2897 was passed. Under this new law, ABC may not issue a liquor license if it violates the existing valid local zoning ordinance of the city where the liquor license is going. The city of Milpitas has such an ordinance. The ordinance gives the Planning Commission the discretion to approve or deny the application via the conditional use permit process. The remainder of this presentation will summarize the Planning Department's analysis on Sheehan's request to sell alcoholic beverages. Next slide, please. This exhibit is the site plan. As stated in the staff report, Sheehan's Steamed Seafood and Stone Grill is a restaurant focused on providing a self-serve grill experience. The restaurant is operating as a restaurant, which includes a public and private dining area, a bar area, back of house operations, and bathroom facilities. This can be made at either the table or the bar area demonstrated on the floor plan. Next slide, please. When reviewing alcohol sales licensing, we being the city of Milpitas, consider the following. Is the building a safe and legal structure which was confirmed and reflected in the staff report? Does the proposed use meet the parking requirements, which was also reviewed in the staff report as well as detailed? Does the proposed use demonstrate public convenience or necessity for the community? This process is similar to the conditional use permit process completed by the city. And lastly, will public safety be significantly impacted by the proposed use? This analysis is also reflected in the CUP process. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Planning Department believes the project meets the conditional use permit findings, which allows how the use will not be detrimental or injurious to property, improvements in the vicinity, nor to the public health, welfare, and safety of the community. Furthermore, it's consistent with the Milpitas general plan and zoning ordinance, and that the city does allow via conditional use permit the sale of beer, wine, and spirits. Our findings can be found both in the staff report and the resolution. Next slide, please. A notice was published in the Milpitas Post and a sign was placed on the window of the building. The city also sent over 255 postcards informing residents and property owners of the project. To date, the Planning Department hasn't received any comments. Next slide, please. The project is exempt from SEQRA per SEQRA guidelines section 15301 and 15183. The proposed use will occupy an existing building where a restaurant previously operated, and the proposed use is consistent with the community plan, which is also known as the general plan, and zoning, since a proposed restaurant is within a commercial shopping center. Next slide, please. So in closing, staff recommends the Planning Commission do the following. Open and close the public hearing to receive, or open the public hearing to receive comment. Move to close the public hearing. Consider the exemptions in accordance to CEQA and adopt resolution number 23-011 approving the conditional use permit subject to the findings and conditions of approval. This concludes staff summary of the proposed project. I am here to answer any questions as well as the project manager, Mr. Singh, Calvin. He's also here to represent Sheehan. Thank you for your time.
Does anybody have any questions for Michael? Seeing none for the developer? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve?
Chair, I believe you need to open the public hearing and take
Oh.
public comment.
I'd like to open the public hearing. See if there's any comments. Seeing none, can I get a motion? In a second,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve the project? Go ahead. I think is it Sonia or is it,
No, it's me.
I move to approve or adopt resolution number 23-011, approving conditional use permit number UP 23-001, subject to the finding and conditions of approval.
I second.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Hey, we've got a second. Like everybody to vote on it.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Project's approved. And Michael, I see we have another one for you.
Putting you to work on your first day back.
I've been back, I just didn't back in front of you.
Yeah.
So.
God, he's really back now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, definitely. I do. Thank you, Vice Chair, and good evening again, Commission, staff, and residents of the city of Milpitas. We have another application for on-premises sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages at a different location. It's the restaurant's known as Gal's Kebab and Crab. Next slide, please. The applicant, Gal's Crab San LLC, has applied for a conditional use permit to serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits within their new restaurant at 1741 North Milpitas Boulevard. Next slide, please. The project location is at the Crescent Square Crescent Square. It's the area on the northern portion of the city of Milpitas. The building, there's a Calessa there, there's a Walgreens is to the north of the site, and there's Crescent Square Montessori to the south of the site. Friendly's Mobile Home Park is located to the west, and the Lions Shopping Center is located to the east. Next slide, please. This is the zoning map demonstrating that the project is located in the C1. We refer to that as Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District. Next slide, please. Who regulates alcohol sales? I have the same discussion about alcohol sales. I won't belabor the issue. Both the state and the city work as partners to review alcohol licenses. Next slide, please. Again, as stated before, ABC may not issue a liquor license if the project violates the existing valid and local zoning ordinance. And to provide you a little bit more information, all restaurants that do request ABC licenses, there's a number of forms you need to fill out. And one of the forms specifically says you need to go down to the city to get our signature. We as planners, there are some restaurants that have beer and wine licenses that can be exchanged and we can sign off on those. But the majority or all new beer, wine, and distilled spirit licenses do require planning commission approval via the conditional use permit process. Next slide, please. This exhibit is the floor plan. As stated in the staff report, Gal's Kebab and Crab is a restaurant focused on serving a crab and kebab fare. The restaurant has just a public dining area. It's smaller than the previous restaurant. It has a small stage, a back of house operations, and bathroom facility. Unlike the Sheehan restaurant, alcohol purchases may only be purchased by restaurant customers at their table. Next slide, please. The project goes through a number of analyses to determine if the building that they're proposing is legal. if there's adequate parking, if the proposed use meets the public and convenience or necessity for the city of Milpitas, and will it negatively impact public safety for the proposed use. Exhibit 3 of your staff report demonstrates Milpitas Police Department reviewing the operations, and in their statements, in their words, they believe that the public safety can be adequately protected by allowing the proposed project to move forward. Next slide, please. The planning department believes the project meets the conditional use permit findings. It will not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity, nor to the public health, welfare, or general health, safety, or general welfare. It's consistent with the Milpitas general plan and zoning ordinance. Those findings and discussion have been discussed in the staff report. Next slide, please. There was a notice placed in the Milpitas Post and a sign proposed in the restaurant. This it had over 1,500 postcards sent to area residents and landlords. We actually had 3 comments today, which is why I didn't get on the slide, that have been received to date. There's been 3 individuals that are not in support of the project. I believe you have 2 of the emails stating why. There's a concern about theft. There's a concern about it's not safe for children. And there is a concern that there's too many alcohol establishments in the immediate area. Next slide, please. Staff did an analysis. I was shooting for an exhibit to confirm. And I read one of the emails that said there's over 20 different restaurants in the immediate area that serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits. We did another analysis, and we found that in the census tract that Gallows, Kebab, and Crab, there's 3 Type 41 licenses. Type 41 is to sell beer and wine. There's 0 Type 47 licenses that allow beer, wine, and spirit. Ironically, right across the street where Lions Supermarket is, that's a different census tract. But staff did an analysis of that where there's more restaurants. And staff did analysis of that, and we confirmed that there's 7 Type 41 licenses, again, for beer and wine. Again, 0 beer, wine, and spirits or Type 47 licenses. If approved, this would be the first Type 47 license. And so the state of California, through their undue concentration analysis, has determined this is not a census tract that has too many ABC licenses per population. But they still give the discretion to the Planning Commission. So furthermore, this site is located less than a mile away from the police department. And again, is an Exhibit 3 of your staff report demonstrates the conditions that the Planning Commission believe will need to be satisfied in order to provide quality service to the restaurant and allow for its use to move forward. The Planning Department adds additional conditions to keep the project, the use safe for residents and for the community. With that being said, the project also is exempt from CEQA per section 15301 and section 15183. The project is consistent with the general plan and zoning, and it's an existing restaurant or existing building, a restaurant going to an existing building. Next slide, please. So in closing, staff recommends the Planning Commission open the public hearing to receive comments, move to close the public hearing, consider the exemptions in accordance with CEQA, and adopt resolution number 23-012, approving the conditional use permit subject to the findings and conditions of approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions. One of the co-owners is here today for Gals to answer any questions regarding the restaurant itself. Thank you for your time, Vice Chair.
Does anybody have any questions for Michael or staff? Seeing none? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just some questions of clarification.
Sure.
Vice Chair? Who's
Vice
first?
Chair, do you want to, before we move on to Commissioner comments, do you want to take comments from the public?
Yeah, we can take
Open the public. Open the public hearing and take comments.
Yeah, we can take comments from the public. Liz, do we have anybody on Zoom? Any public comments?
There's no public comments here in the chamber nor in the Zoom queue, Vice Chair.
Do the commissioners have any other questions?
If I could also share that we have Captain Miller, who's joined through Zoom, in case we have any questions from the Milpitas Police Department, in case we have any questions related to public safety.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I had
thank
some
you.
questions to
Yeah.
just ask Mr. Fasadi. Okay, Vice Chair.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Fasadi, in that particular, just for more information, that particular complex, right, where there are also like there's Calesa, Walgreens. So how many restaurants, is this the only one that's applying for that particular kind of, you call it beer, wine? There's a form for that. What is it?
Yes, Commissioner Abada, there, in the Crescent Square is the commercial square that we're referring to. And this is the only restaurant in that area, in that building itself, that's applying for what they call Type 47 license. So there's two restaurants. Well, there's one restaurant that has a Type 41 beer and wine. Out of all the restaurants there, it's the Calesa. This one's asking for beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Is there a reason why they have to open it up until 2 a.m.? Excuse me.
Okay, so staff had asked the same question to the applicant. I'll answer for them, but it's my understanding that they would like to be open till 2 a.m. because they'd like to be able to serve alcohol along with food at that time. It's more of a cultural belief. It caters to an Asian community, and per the applicant, they had shared that there's some people that like to eat later on in the evening. Some of their fare works very well with distilled spirits, so they want to have the option of being, one, open that late, and two, being able to serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits at that time.
And how many have that type of license across where you have the Lion? About how many have the same type?
So 0 do. Across
Zero.
the street at Lions Shopping, the Lions Supermarket, and all those restaurants, there is no restaurant that has a beer. It's tight.
So in that section, they will be the only ones open until 2 in the morning.
Well, they'd be the only ones open to be able to serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Correct.
I'm not unaware if there's other restaurants that are open that late in the evening, serving food in general.
I know there's how do we say this? It goes with the conforming of all these 4 points of public safety and everything like that. What about the impact for the neighborhood? Because you have senior mobile homes, you have young daycares, you have schools around it. What do you think and feel, why you feel you support it?
Sure. So, well, I'd like to do 2 things. One, if I could defer, since the planning department isn't in charge of just public health, welfare, and safety, perhaps Captain Miller would want to discuss that question. That's fair. He is available via Zoom. And then I would follow up with some of my thoughts.
Good evening, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Can I have the question repeated, please?
Convince me why this impact socially or neighborly would be good. For example, based on not necessarily that it conforms to, zoning, the parking, security, but like impact on neighborhoods, families on that sense.
Based upon where the restaurant was located, which Mr. Fasadi showed on the map, I think the only residential area that would be next to it is the mobile home park. And if it's a restaurant operating as a regular restaurant and not per se a nightclub or having loud music per se. I don't foresee there being a lot of calls for service generated based upon the noise. Certainly if there were, if we got noise complaints, we could go out and actually address the noise issue to see if it is at a level that is being disruptive to the public. And in those events, what we would do is we would take a report and refer that to code enforcement to see to have them address any municipal code violations regarding noise abatement or noise control. And then that could lead to potentially revising the conditional use permit of the restaurant itself. So if the owner of the restaurant is there, I don't know if they propose to have late music or have it like a nightclub per se, or if it's just supposed to be a restaurant operating until 2 a.m. That would be something that he could follow up with.
Thank you. Yeah, would like some clarification from the owner.
And a motion to open the public hearing.
Good evening for everybody. Yeah, we're just a regular restaurant. We're not gonna like a nightclub, anything like that. It's just a regular restaurant, a neighborhood restaurant. They will only serve the things people like it, not loud music at all. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Any questions
Thank you.
for the applicant? Yeah, we've got a question for the.
Yeah, Mr.
applicant.
Fossati, this establishment open between 4 p.m. up to 2 a.m., correct?
Correct. That's
And
what they're
then-
proposing.
They can sell only or serve from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Well, they can serve whenever they're in operation.
during operations. How about, let's say they open in the morning and they have a special party. Well, do they need it? Then they will serve alcohol.
So-
Do they need a permit or something? Or
Well, so just to kind of reiterate the question,
Yes.
if they were to have a special party in the morning, can they serve beer, wine, and
yes,
distilled spirits?
yes.
If the planning commission doesn't believe place any conditions on the proposed project, then the answer is yes. If the project's approved, they'd be able to sell beer, wine, and spirits. I believe, and I'm not 100% sure. I know after 2 a.m. they can't sell. I just don't know when they are able to sell.
If I could speak, so the conditions of approval also point to the business operations. So they'd have to comply with what they've written in the business operations. So the hours of operation are also stated in the conditions of approval. So they couldn't sell alcohol through a special event outside of that, because that would go beyond the scope of what the conditional use permit allows. But if the planning commission did want to be a little more explicit, you could add conditions being more explicit about, limiting the operations to not include those kinds of special events, or having, for example, also having like live performances, during hours. That's a possibility. Although I do think the way that the conditions are written, they have to stay within the scope of what they've put in the application. And to add a little bit, to add a little context, there will be no bar. So I think that, adds a little bit of a context compared to another restaurant that may have a bar. I mean, also in terms of the hours for nearby schools and the daycare, the hours that they share, that they're both open, like the business plus the daycare, would be limited. There isn't a great deal of overlap in terms of the hours of operation. And then Milpitas PD also is recommending various lighting and security measures to make sure that later into the night that it'll hopefully remain safe.
Thank you. Any other questions?
My last question is, if you're saying that by 2 o'clock you cannot serve, 2 a.m. you cannot serve beer, but the customer can still stay on the establishment after 2 o'clock, but they can still drink, right?
So actually, thank you, Principal Jay. Condition 21 in the staff report specifically states that the hours of operation can be no earlier than noon, no later than 2. So at 2 p.m., the establishment has
No,
to close.
2 a.m.
2 a.m. I apologize. 2
So,
a.m.
so they can't drink inside the establishment after 2 a.m.
The restaurant cannot operate
Cannot
after
operate.
2 a.m. Therefore, they would have to leave.
But you can still sell or serve alcohol before 2 p.m. correct? Or 2 a.m. correct?
Between 12 p.m. till 2 a.m.
You
They,
can.
they can sell alcohol. They can operate. Operate means serve food and serve beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Is there any restaurant in the area that serve alcohol until 2 a.m. in the area? Is there any restaurant around there?
There's no restaurants that I'm aware of that are open at those hours.
Yes. What about the noise? I know we mentioned about the noise, but you know, when you're having fun, especially me, if I have fun, my voice is so loud, especially having a glass of wine. I may be dancing on top of the table, right? So, but the thing here is, it's more on, this is, with the other one we discussed, that's more on a different community in, you know, that side of Barber Lane. But this one is more within neighbors, within close proximity. So can we maybe limit something like the hours or noise? I don't know. Because it's a quiet community. So it just saying, just commenting.
As the planning commission, you have full discretion on any conditions. So that's something that you want to consider. Planning staff will oblige.
Also, if I may add, there are noise limits through our general plan and municipal code. So if there would be a noise complaint, we would have to see if the noise exceeds these noise limits, and we would be able to enforce to make sure it stays within those limits.
And one other thing, a principal Lee had shared, and just again to share that this is and I'm not sure we can bring up the floor plan again with this restaurant, but it's specifically a restaurant. There's no bar located. You can't go into the restaurant and say, I want vodka. That's not what it's made for. The restaurant's proposing a restaurant to be able to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits. And one of the whole idea about public convenience or necessity is that if someone wants a distilled spirits, this gives them an opportunity to stay in Milpitas to obtain distilled spirits in a neighborhood location. If someone lives in this area and they want distilled spirits and this isn't approved, they would have to drive farther outside the community, outside the city. Some of the findings associated with this is to give residents access to, within reason, to whatever they're available for, whatever they would request. This is the only Type 47 license in both census tracts that are requesting beer, wine, and spirits. And we have spoken numerous times with the applicant, and their logic for, at least per what they've shared, their request to sell beer, wine, and spirits is because certain types of distilled spirits go well with the cuisine that they're going to be presenting. So they're not proposing, at least in our understanding, they're not proposing to open up a nightclub or bar. It's just a restaurant that serves these types of alcohol.
Quick question. So serve food and have the spirits with your good food. What about selling by the case, by the bottles to take out? That's not included.
That's not what the license that they're applying for.
That's not what they're applying.
Yes. So Type 47 alcohol license, there's a term that needs to be a bona fide eating establishment. One way, so this is a great question. One way that alcohol beverage controls verify this when you go through the application is the applicant has to provide records of the food they purchased every month to demonstrate that they're a bona fide eating establishment.
Okay, so it's not just selling also that they can sell by the case. If I go out there and says, I want a case of the best.
Correct. It's not, literally my wife and I last night went to Total Wine in San Jose, where you could sell by Bevmo. There's no restaurant. It's just, this is not what this is, a type 47 allows you to do
All
in
right.
no cases.
Thank you so much for all the clarification. Thank you. Bye.
And if I may, condition of approval number 23 states that alcohol may only be served and consumed inside the restaurant.
Any other questions?
And
Alex?
so a customer can go to the establishment just for the drink and you do that, not ordering the food. Let's say if I go there and I have a friend and the 6 of us and just want to drink, and
There's no condition where someone cannot go in and just ask for a drink, to ask for a table and
No.
just,
yeah, just inside the restaurant.
the license would allow them to do that.
There's no limit, right? There's, let's say, oh, you stop, you're already 5 cans of beer. And
Well, and I'd like to direct the planning commission to the project specific conditions. One requirement is responsible alcoholic beverage service controls. Servers of the restaurant will be required, and the restaurant will need to demonstrate that there's certification on responsibly serving alcohol. Therefore, in other words, the certification training teaches you how to sell alcohol, and if you notice signs that someone may be intoxicated, how to no longer sell that alcohol.
did the applicant and their staff need training? Or
They do. Condition 24 specifically says permittees shall be solely responsible and liable for ensuring that all servers receive responsible alcohol beverage service.
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Also, we have Planning Director Ned Thomas on Zoom, who has his hand raised.
Thank you. I was going to just stay quiet, but I do have one quick comment about the ABC license. I'm joining you from home tonight, and I appreciate Principal Planner Lee covering for me, and it's nice to be with you again tonight. Yeah, sometimes that type 47 license, and ABC, the Alcohol Beverage Control Department for the state of California, has several. There might be a dozen or more than a dozen different types of licenses, and this particular license 47 is sometimes called an on-sale. It's one of the on-sale licenses on premises sale. So it is limited to. I think there was an earlier question about being able to come in and buy beer, wine, or liquor and take it off premises for consumption, but that's not the type of license that this is. So it's very limited to on-premises consumption of the alcohol that's purchased. And also, as Senior Planner Fasadi mentioned, it's also it's limited to in conjunction with the restaurant. So the previous question had to do with, can you come in and just buy liquor like a bar? And as Mr. Fasadi noted, that's not the case. The liquor has to be served in conjunction with a meal, and that's why the ABC, checks the receipts that the restaurant is buying and selling food as well as alcohol, because it's strictly limited to on premises and in conjunction with the purchase of food. Hopefully that helps clarify the type of license.
Okay. Any other questions for Ned? None? Thank you, Ned. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I get a motion to approve the project?
Make a motion.
Can you read the motion out?
Can we get the motion on the screen, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 23-012, approving conditional use permit number UP 23-002 02, subject to the findings and conditions of approval.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approves. Congratulations, your project's approved. Okay, I think we're done. All we have to do is a little bit of legalese here. Any person aggrieved by any final decision of any board, commission, or department head of the city of Milpitas may appeal the decision of the city council by filing a written notice of appeal to the city clerk within 12 calendar days of the date said decision and paying the required fee. This time limit shall be strictly enforced. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? In a second,
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're done.
Thank you.